Okay, hi. Okay, hi guys. Well, hi guys. So I'm checking in here. I have to do it from home. Eric is still on assignment with Betsy. Let's go, Betsy, go, baby. It's still late March. In a sense, it's still early in the battle for her. And I think she's making headway. She's working as hard as she can, and we're praying she's going to do it. Okay, so here, let me just adjust that a little bit there, a little bit there, I guess. All right, for what it's worth. Okay, so today, Yankee T News, Monday, March 23rd, the year of our Lord 2026. And uh, the way I would start this is to say, I've mentioned this word before. I've described it as being in transition. So then, how about different phases of transition? So now, I would say that we entered a new phase when President Trump threatened the Iranian government with a 48-hour notice to um, basically open up the Strait of Hormuz. Well, as he said, negotiations have improved dramatically. So as a result, we're going to suspend the threat of bombing their power plants for the next 5 days. So now they're on a new clock, and can they do it? It becomes strange because you get, by the way, you get contradictory information. This is the other big thing. You have Trump saying, "Oh yeah, we're in negotiations," and I'd mentioned Axios the other night, and now we got more. It seems like Axios is becoming the information channel for these negotiations, which means then that the White House is feeding Axios, a left-leaning publication, all this information. And so, a lot of leftists have complained they got kicked out of the White House press room. But well, what's Axios doing there, guys? Just a question. Just a question. Okay, so we have that part going, and then the other thing that's weird is it seems like you have people saying, "Oh yeah, Pakistan, we're helping. Oh yeah, India, we're helping." And see, what were the other countries? There were two others, all claiming to have some hand in the back channel process of negotiation. All the while, President Trump is saying, we don't know who's in charge. Well, how can you negotiate with somebody you don't know who's in charge? But there's one note. I'm sorry, I didn't get his name right. Kharjij. There's the person who is the head of the Iranian parliament. Now, I just wanted to point out, hey, hold on a second. On the one hand, so you're not negotiating with the whoever the new Grand Ayatollah is, but you're negotiating with the guy who runs the parliament. I'm trying to square a certain problem in my mind about this. To what extent, to what extent has the government collapsed, and to what extent is the government still intact? In my humble opinion, if you're negotiating with somebody from parliament, the government is still pretty intact. All right. So whatever claims there are about their falling apart are, in my opinion, exaggerated. And I'll get to another example or point about that. Okay, so you have those things going. And let's see here, there's one other. What was that? Yes. Now, you can't help but notice that, at least I noticed because I try to read a lot, that the more Iran seems to be losing, the harder the media tries to make Iran look good. So that is a problem, and I put up a link about that. Now, there's this other discussion that's starting to emerge, but again, the things that I would hope for the most are the things that are happening the least, and other people have expressed the same. If you don't have the Iranian people rising up, what are you going to do? Okay? There is no fighting force of any kind that can counter the IRGC or the besieged. So now we turn to the Kurds. We say, yay for Mossad having infiltrated and going around the country killing the IRGC and besieged leaders. Great, but it's not enough. It's still not enough. And I'll keep, so maybe a little bit, interview here, an article there, and saying, there's some indication that maybe something is happening, but there's nothing that we can say, yay, they're on their way. It's not happening. In the middle of that, I think it was Mossad who made the statement that if they're going to be boots on the ground, they need to be Iranian boots on the ground. So this raises questions then about the two Marine Expeditionary Forces that are working their way into the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to be a total of 5,000, roughly 4,800, 4,500, something like that. Where are they going to land? What are they going to do? What's their mission? All right, we haven't really found out about that. Okay, so I'm going to get to one other point here that bothers me about Iran. Two things. President Trump used the phrase nuclear dust. Now, reading between the lines, I would guess what he's suggesting is that when those facilities were bombed back in June, the whatever uranium was damaged so much it's just scattered into dust. So radioactive dust. Won't that be fun to clean up? But yeah, so we don't know what the story is there. Meantime, there was a video. Did I put up the link for it? No, I did not. Yeah, so I have time. If I can find it, I'll make a point to put it up on our website. The how do I put this? This video made a big deal out of our having successfully used bunker buster bombs to destroy. I want to say Natanz and I want to say Isfahan. I think I've got those right. But there's a reference to, and I don't know if it's there or some other location, but they described and showed these clips. It could have been AI fakes of these gigantic tunnels absolutely packed with missiles and other munitions. And what they were suggesting was that they had bombed these successfully, sealed them off, so that not only are the missiles trapped in there, they threw out a number. They said there could be as many as 5,000 IRGC troops trapped inside. All right, let's go with the troops for a minute. They give you the impression, or the statements they make suggest that they have worked for a long time on building these tunnels. We're talking decades. It was the Iraq-Iran war where the Iranian government decided we're going to, for our own self-interest, going into the future, we're going to have to start building these tunnels. And the process has continued ever since. All right. And they're described as being cleverly constructed. They're not straight line tunnels. They have curves, different twists to them, etc., etc. Okay. Now, to be that big, there's a little phrase that comes to mind, folks. The phrase is air changes. Okay. You have to have life support of some kind in this gigantic tunnel if you're going to have 5,000 troops in there. What's that going to look like? You need pumps, you need compressors, you need fans, you need vents, all right, to be able to move this air around, to get rid of the old air and bring in new air. All right. So the article suggested that these troops were somehow trapped. I'm not so sure they're trapped, okay? Because my question is about the nature of these other vents and things. In a facility that big, there's got to be a huge number of these vents if they're doing their job. Now, could they have been so incompetent that they didn't do it? Maybe. We'll find out later. But right now, I'm just asking the question. You got the main entrance. What about all the equipment inside? What about the vents, the air vents? So I think those troops may have an ability to escape. I'm just saying. And if they can escape, what can they take out with them? Just another question. Okay. So I'm not convinced that these attacks have been so thoroughly destructive as claimed. Just me. I would like it to be, but when this video doesn't take account of obvious things like air vents, I gotta ask. All right. Meantime, I put up another link. You know, people who wonder about these things can't help come to certain conclusions because the information that we're being presented is incomplete. That's the nicest way to put it. It is incomplete. So that is with respect to Ukraine and Russia. So we're learning about these special forces Iranian special forces that have been infiltrating behind the lines. We have Ukrainians who are, Russians of Ukrainian extraction who deciding that they are not loyal to Russia after all, they're loyal to Ukraine. So they form these sabotage units. There's a name for them. I forget who they are. Okay, that's the Ukrainians. Could there be, are these groups supported by the CIA? Are there other groups supported by the CIA? Okay, well, you get to find out. If you want to believe this other video link I put up, if you go there, it's going to show you how, quote, we too planted terrorist cells inside Russia a long time ago, and lots of them, lots of them. And this, which gets in a whole other discussion. I was having this debate with Jason the other night about the extent to which Russians are what you'll call freedom loving. I don't think they're so freedom loving. That's just me. He thinks otherwise, but we can get into that later. Okay, so the more balanced picture here is yes, all kinds of groups have infiltrated Russia and they're sabotaging all kinds of things at the same time that you have Ukrainian drone attacks taking out facilities. So there's this pressure, such as it is, and the degree to which it slowed the Russians down is probably considerable. It's hard to put a number on it, but when you look at the lack of progress the Russians have had on the battlefield, you have to wonder how much have these things, these sabotage groups inside the country contributed to that. Just a question. And then in the meantime, yes, the Russians have been returning the favor. So Russians agents have been infiltrating in Ukraine, and they seem to be sabotaging things where they can. But on balance, I mean, the impression I get, even though the Russians have bigger numbers, they've had less impact behind the battlefield in Ukraine. Again, just my impression. But this video will make clear to you that the picture is more complex, has many more moving parts to it. So I highly encourage you to watch it. Very informative. Meantime, back in Washington, we have the battle over the SAVE Act, okay, and, for voter ID primarily. And it's shameful how the Republicans in the Senate are just not doing their job. So look at what's happened here very quickly in summary. You've had Ken Paxton, who's running against John Cornyn for the Senate in a primary in Texas. Ken Paxton said to John Cornyn, if you help pass the SAVE Act, I will drop out and you will get to run for the Senate unopposed. Did John Cornyn take advantage of that? No. To him, it's more important to not pass the SAVE Act. It boggles my mind. Okay, there's that. Then President Trump said, I'm not signing a single bill until the SAVE Act is passed. Has the Senate moved? Nope. So that didn't work. Now we have the House, okay? And they're saying, we're not going to play ball with you guys if you don't pass the SAVE Act. Any action? Nope. So something is deeply, deeply, seriously wrong here, ladies and gentlemen. And in an attempt to just connect a couple of dots here, which will lead to another story, you've got the election fraud going on in Georgia. Okay, and just quick update is that, yes, what was it? 700 some boxes were taken in the FBI raid, but it turns out there are 55 boxes missing. And of course, the Fulton Board of Elections has no idea where they are. The game playing continues right down to the very last thing. This should tell you just how desperate they are to avoid the truth. The truth has to be so destructive, so unbelievable, frankly historic in scope, that these people would do these things. Okay, the way the Fulton County Board of Elections is acting over these boxes is the same way the Senate is acting over the SAVE Act. All right, Meantime, the other story I wanted to bring up, which we have a link to, I believe. Let me see here. Oh, yes, there it is. 650,000 ballots seized by a California sheriff. Yes, they had a local election in a county in California. There was a little problem. It's the same problem that happens over and over again. So why not more have done anything about it? I do not understand. But here's the problem. It's common. More votes than voters. In this particular case, 40,000 more votes recorded than there are voters. Clearly, there is fraud in place. And the depth to which this fraud is integrated into our system of election integrity is far worse than anybody could have ever anticipated. So this sheriff in California, God bless him, God bless him. He sees those 50,000 ballots, and he's setting up to do a hand count with his own group of people. A hand count. Okay? And then they're going to bump that against the claimed results from that election. Will they find some discrepancies? Hell yeah, they're going to find discrepancies. And now there's going to be a big battle over explaining those discrepancies. So stay tuned for that. I mean, even the stuff is happening in Georgia and Arizona. This comes from out of left field. Nobody saw this coming. So election integrity is a big issue. And I'm going to have to do more on this. That's all there is I have to say. Okay, meantime, there will also be, SCOTUS is supposed to make a big decision on absentee ballots. I think it has to do with same-day voting. So, heads up about that. And meantime, over in China, the Wuhan laboratory, they did it again. Now they have claimed to have developed, it's, if I may, it is a long time ago. If someone had decided to take the genetic material from Ebola, Marsburg, Rift Valley fever, and these other hemorrhagic viruses and others, they could have done it a long time ago, 15 years ago easily, if not more. But now we have a report that Wuhan Laboratory says we have succeeded in inserting or genetically modifying mosquitoes so that if that mosquito lands on your arm, that mosquito will be injecting the genetic material from those deadly viruses into your system. Okay, not good, not good at all. But there are several fair questions that need to be asked. The first and most important is, will it work? Okay. So we know that those viruses have extremely high mortality rates, but as part of a larger genome, the mosquito genome, will that alter some of the characteristics of these viral genes? Unanswered question. The testing continues. And the thing that's sickening, ladies and gentlemen, is how this kind of work serves only one purpose: to kill people. That's all they care about. It's terrible. Anyway, the next thing is what do we have here? Okay, and then there's a related article about how people have developed technology. What a surprise! Where you can dose paper with deadly chemicals, poisons, and you handle the paper. Next thing you know, you're dead. Or you can do it the binary way. You give them one with one kind of drug, and when they get the second drug and the second piece of paper, then you get killed. Lovely. So, meantime, 40%, according to this latest thing here, 40% of young white liberal women want to leave America. So women between the ages of 15 and 44, 40% of them say, I'm out of here. So there's clearly a problem, all right? We need to get a better handle on this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how else to explain it. There is an illness. We've been talking about this, at least 2 books that identified liberalism as a mental disorder. but it's become even worse, and in ways that, it's kind of like it's a state of mind that's almost like a platform for multiple disorders. So once you manage to get that platform in place, you can just pile on more disorders, more problems, more diseases, more you name it. And that person just gets worse and worse. And I don't know what to say. I look at these young women and I have to say they're damaged goods. Gee, if there's a way to cure them, I think there might be, but the talk is about how you have such a large number of them who are totally out of control. And speaking out of control, I have to mention Tina Peters. That's right. So Governor Polis, here we go again. It's been going on for a while. Uh, but again, I remind you, there's the greater wisdom in releasing Tina Peters. You've been talking about doing it. Let's have some action. But meantime, I encourage you to go to tinapeters.us. They've been putting up more information that's more timely and newsworthy about what's been happening. And that might be a sense that things are moving in her direction. We could certainly hope for that. Okay, so was there one other thing here? Well, a note about Indivisible is calling for training that they call nonviolent. What is it they don't already do that they could do that wouldn't be violent? It just amazes me. And the other thing is the No Kings protests have been very ineffectual. Maybe this is their effort to try and overcome that. I don't know. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that's pretty much my take on the week. We'll be posting our stuff eventually on yankeet.news, and hopefully you'll go read it there. That's one of my objectives. And remember to subscribe. Above all, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Okay, so in the meantime, it was great, and I hope we talk to you later.